I've been rage baited once again. Twitter, you guys are a mountain of ideas. Honestly, you guys are probably some of the best brainstorming partners there is because I'm gonna go on another rant. Let's go! Okay, I'm hyped. I'm hyped to talk about some stupid stuff, and not everybody is going to agree with me on this video, and that is perfectly fine, but just be warned that you guys will be spoiled on Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2025, number 11 and 10, kind of, and Batman number 1 2025. And as the title suggests, we are going to be talking about the idea of regression. And you guys might think I'm coming about it at a perspective of these characters last basically forever. They've been with us for 60 to 80 years plus. And because of that, they need to be continuously redefined and just revamped and brought back to the status quo so that a new generation of readers and viewers can really appreciate these characters. I'm not going to talk about it from that perspective. I wanted to tackle this issue based on the outrage between both of these two books. If you haven't seen, in my recent poll that I did on Friday, I asked which character out of the big three suffered the most of horrible writing as of recent. And a lot of people did say Spider-Man, but a lot of people also said that these characters shouldn't be written about because we're just milking them too much. And I'm like, whoa. If you guys read the comics and you didn't watch videos, this is my opinion, by the way. I'm going to put a longer opinion on Instagram. But in general, all of these books are actually really good. And it's the first time in a long time where all three are continuously either doing new things, bringing back a good characterization, or just really setting up the future for the DC Universe while also bringing in new concepts. That's what the gist of all of this really is. And I haven't been this excited reading Spider-Man since the beginning of Nick Spencer's run. But I really want to talk about the Batman one first. Now, Matt Fraction, as a lot of you guys know, is a really good writer who did like Jimmy Olsen, that book. He did Hawkeye, Iron Man, Iron Fist. He's really been around the park. Sex Criminals. He is that guy, in my opinion. And I was really excited knowing that he's going to format the Batman books from a single story perspective. And what that means is that each issue is going to be a new story, a complete story, and you don't have to read others. So you can just jump in and you'll be like, oh, Robin has to deal with this, and this issue, and you're going to see that they're going to do a different take, maybe even a different writing style, maybe even a different style to the art, maybe even a complete unique dissection of a supervillain and a superhero, their dynamics, and seeing what makes them tick, or maybe even using them in a unique, different way that makes you go like, what? I didn't even think about that. And I'm glad somebody is doing it. Matt Fraction even said he's going to do an annual issue of Batman solving the death of a bee. He's bringing back all the Bronze and Silver Age goodness that we all want while modernizing it and putting it under a post-crisis / New 52 rebirth lens. And this is honestly what I've always wanted. If you look at the general consensus of this issue, it's pretty damn positive. But a lot of people are bringing up this one thing where he says this in this little dialogue on like the 5th page. And he's talking to Dr. Zeller, this new character that he created, and I'm going to read this little passage here. So the beginning here, he's like, I'm getting pretty tired of this because Killer Croc broke out of Arkham Towers. If you don't know, Arkham Towers is this new building that's been made because Arkham Asylum was blown up, destroyed, taken completely off the map during Infinite Frontier. So from here, Dr. Zeller says this, we're shocked as you, Batman. Waylon Jones self-reported for treatment and could have left any time he wished. This containment unit was built to withstand a bomb blast. So it's like, how did he even do this to begin with? Well, he's getting a lot stronger. He's changing. But Batman here, he says the exact opposite. You're new here, Doctor. Killer Croc hasn't been Waylon Jones for a long time. I try to keep them separate in my mind. It's easier that way when they inevitably disappoint you. Everything he's saying here makes sense to me from a logical standpoint. Batman, he is literally all logic. Why would this not make sense? I'm going to continue. She says, Waylon may be a supervillain to you, but he's a patient to me. Waylon Jones is changing, Batman. He began ectasis. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Shedding his skin, but it's concealed. It's deeper. It's kind of like he's shedding from the inside out. Everything. And he says, people never change. Not really. And that got a lot of people angry. They're like, that's not my Batman. Batman would never say this. Like, I gotta do the goofy voice on you guys because that makes no sense if we look at it from a character perspective. A lot of people are like, why would he ever be like this? Why would he say this? But it makes me think, have you guys ever read Batman? From a regression standpoint, if you want to look at it like regression, even with the appearance of Alfred, everybody's like, why is he even here? Why do we have to relearn character progression? By the way, for a lot of you guys, you think that's an AI. It's not an AI. All of it is in Bruce's mind. It's his hallucination. As Matt Fraction says, it's his Jiminy Cricket. So it's that little thing on his shoulder. It's kind of like Batmite in the Batman RIP storyline when he was on the Zern R personality. And Batmite, that was the last light of reason. He says it's that bright needle for his darkest balloon. That is what Alfred is supposed to be. And it made a lot of sense because he was saying what I thought to be Bruce's inner thoughts, right? Why would he have a whole monologue telling Bruce all of these different things about, oh, there's this change. If you really believe in not changing, well, look at Croc. He completely changed. What if some eternal cycle has begun within him, and even for this one moment, he's become a child alone in a violent and terrible world he cannot understand, drowning in fear. How could Bruce not relate to this? And it's really fascinating and interesting because it's very self-deprecating, because him saying people can't change also relates to himself, right? Because he's been the same character for the longest time, and he will never find that happiness. Somebody like Dick Grayson, he's constantly changing, even if it's through a very superficial means, like changing identities, like being Robin, Nightwing, Batman, Agent 37, to coming back to being Nightwing but dealing with different threats. All of that is showing that Dick Grayson can't stay in one spot. He's like a normal person where he's able to move on and choose what's the best thing for him to do in that moment to succeed within his goals. He even decided to be a police officer for a bit, knowing that yes, while this is a crazy career change from being a bartender, it allows me to do things that I never would be able to do as Nightwing. So all of these processes are within his head. Batman, he kind of pushes against change for the most part because he knows he's going to stay in this eternal cycle of fighting crime in Gotham. In year 2 of Batman and Long Halloween, he's like, dude, I have this moment. I could feel it on the cusp, on the tip of my tongue, that I am at the precipice of taking down the criminal elements in Gotham. But from there, all the super criminals rose to the challenge. And then with the creation of Two-Face, you realize, well, I guess we're stuck now. We gotta deal with this for the rest of my life. And that is tragic. But Bruce, if you've read any of his stories, you know he's a character who says stuff without actually meaning it, because he's not really thinking, and then it just leads to a really big fight that nobody ever wanted because Bruce can't explain himself. On top of that, Bruce has been fighting for at least, let's say, 15 years. I think it's more like 20, but let's say the bare minimum, 15 years. And villains are consistently cycling out from being a good guy, really being somebody that Bruce could actually rely on, to reverting back into being a villain. Why would that not take a mental toll? Him saying people never change was him just at his lowest moment, being like, why does this have to happen again? I put so much trust into you, and then you do me like this. It's interesting because while he does say he keeps them separate in his mind, Waylon Jones and Killer Croc are two completely different entities, and he hasn't been Waylon in a while. As soon as he has that confrontation, he calls him Waylon. He takes off his mask. He's as compassionate as he ever was before. He didn't mean what he said. He was just getting tired of the situation. That's completely human. And then people were saying, why was he hallucinating Alfred? They had a whole moment of like him and like Batman versus Robin by Mark Waid, where he came to terms with the ghost, the literal ghost of Alfred, for his death. He was like, okay, all of this is now pushed to the side. I'm at peace. But it really was just for that moment. People are like, why do we have to have this version of Alfred again? Move on. I'm going to ask you this. Can you move on from the death of a loved one? Like completely and fully? Are you going to tell me there's not going to be a singular moment in your life where something triggers you or something reminds you of that loved one and you're not going to be emotional? Him hallucinating Alfred just shows that bond. The fact that he's able to hallucinate Alfred and his wit and the jokes that he makes is perfect, is dead on. The fact that he was doing his detective skills and he's like, Killer Croc must be in there after using his huge, crazy technological device to find his footprints or whatever he was looking at. I don't even know the crazy stuff that he saw in his spectral lens. He was examining some meat, whatever that may be. I'm rambling, dude. I love this run, and it's only one issue, and that's why I'm defending it so much. But from there, he made a funny joke where it's like, you really are quite the detective, sir, because it's literally a giant gaping hole in the wall. Where else would he be? In previous runs, he had an entire moment where he was speaking like if Alfred was on the other side of the line. Bruce is in his lowest moments, but previously in Batman and Robin by Philip Kennedy Johnson, he was under some drugs by a villain, and he was hallucinating Alfred, his dead corpse, talking to him while his son Damian was in danger. So you could really see the building blocks as to why this was created in his mind. Alfred, he is a person that you can't really ever forget. If you know him this well, that was never in the cards to begin with. And it's just natural progression at this point. It makes sense, and it's very brilliant on Matt Fraction's part because he gets to have his cake and eat it too. Everybody who wants Alfred to come back, Alfred is right here in character and saying the things that you want Alfred to say. But on top of that, it's also very good character work for Bruce because all the things that Alfred says is actually his own internal thoughts. If you read over the book carefully, there is no internal monologue because all of that internal monologue is coming from the angel on his shoulder, Alfred, but saying it in a more natural and just fun way because who wouldn't want to read Batman's internal thoughts and Alfred's funny, very British humor? Like, that's just so cool to me that he even thought about that. And I'm not even going into the fact about like rebirth and change, and even the butterfly, the blue butterfly there, it symbolizes rebirth, changing into something else. And it was attracted to Bruce and also to Killer Croc. So it just tells you there symbolically that none of this ever was supposed to be taken at face value, but people are just illiterate. And I'm not even getting all my thoughts out on like a written format. I don't even have notes in front of me to really say my piece in the most eloquent way possible. But even look at it. When the butterfly falls onto Croc's shoulder, zoom in, it looks like Bruce. He looks like somebody trying to rehabilitate another person. That was his end goal, why he went there in the first place. These Arkham doctors are much better than the ones at the asylum, and their goal is literally to rehabilitate them on everything that they love, and they're doing it in the best way that they can. They're getting in new doctors, getting rid of all the corrupt ones, and really working with Batman to the utmost extent. Dr. Zeller, she called Batman before the police. All of this is working out and makes the most sense to me. But switching things to the Amazing Spider-Man number 10 and number 11, this is a big spoiler for a lot of you, but I've been seeing a lot of people call this run trash, and then I decided to read through all of these 11 issues pretty recently. I'm like, you know what? People have been saying some crazy things about this run, and I'm sure it can't be worse than Zeb Wells. And I read it, I'm like, wait, this is actually fire. Do people just not have sauce these days? Do they just want like the Tom Taylor version of Spider-Man? Because I'm like, this is good. I didn't expect it to be anything like this. I was fondly surprised. And what we see here in number 10 at the very end of this issue, Spider-Man is fighting Norman, or Herman Schultz. I just spoiled it, haha. But here, he fights Herman Schultz and he breaks his wrist and he runs away. And he says this: something interesting happens when you sit in the dark and lose sight of your boundaries. It's frightening at first, but when you start down that rabbit hole, from the nothingness, a clarity forms. It's not just the boundaries of your body that disappear, it's all the ways you used to define yourself. Son, human, hero, Peter Parker, Spider-Man. The labels and the habits and the rules and the definition of self fall away. But the core remains, the true you, the one you keep hidden. Letting that out, now that's scary. I'm scared. As he meets face to face with quote-unquote Peter Parker, who's like, you're not Spider-Man, and he says, I'm aware. And we learn that this guy right here, the Peter Parker, is actually Ben Reilly, who's of course now Chasm, but he's been changed to be more of a good guy. Now, I don't know exactly what happened at the end of Zeb Wells' run because I didn't have the gall to finish it in its entirety. I don't think anybody does unless they were completely and utterly a masochist. But from here, we see that the person behind the mask is actually Norman Osborn. And that is quite interesting. A lot of people are like, dude, this is completely trash. But think about it. Everybody was like, oh my goodness, Doc Ock is Spider-Man? That is so cool. Not even thinking about the fact that Superior Spider-Man is not even that good. Yes, it was very interesting to see the dialogue and the mental thought process of Doc Ock in Spider-Man's body. That was very just engaging and fun. But the story itself was so stupid because everybody in Peter's friend group was utterly mentally diagnosed to either... I can't even say that. Let's just say they were stupid as all hell. Because why are you guys thinking that Peter is all of a sudden a killer and going to do all of these crazy brutal things, but not talk to him and have a complete conversation, not even realize his dialogue is changing? Peter never talks the way that Ock is talking in his body, but everybody thinks that it's him. So they are tarnishing his reputation as much as Otto did in those beginning phases. But here, what I really like is Norman's dialogue. He says this: "The city needs Spider-Man. For now, at least, I am Spider-Man. Wearing his skin disconnects me from the past, from pain, from guilt. The liberation is, for lack of a better word, intoxicating, but also disorienting. I don't like it." And all of this really works to show with Peter Parker his entire life goal, just like Spider-Man. The reason why he doesn't kill is so that his villains can be rehabilitated. Everybody reading this not wanting Norman to be better, you're really just being a doofus in my opinion. Not that you have to like this decision, but think about it. Spider-Man was literally a Green Goblin in the past run. Joe Kelly is trying to make Green Goblin Spider-Man, but actually good. Yes, he's a bit rough around the edges, but when Chasm hits him into a chimney, he spins his web to save a bunch of kids below. And Ben, he's just losing his mind. He's like, crap, I'm an idiot, right? I'm always going too far, but Black Cat comes in, is like, not too far. At least our main spider here has his eye on the prize. He's already doing better than Doc Ock. He's not trying to be better than Peter. He's just trying to live up to what he thinks he should be. Deep inside, he was like, tonight was valuable. Deep muscle contusions aside, I have clear data. I'm improving, keeping my emotions in check. If anyone was going to set me off, it was a clone of Peter, punching me through a pre-war building. Earlier tonight, before that confrontation, I was thinking of quitting. If I became an animal every time I engage, I am not valuable. I am a liability to the dream. I cannot do that to Peter. I owe him too much. He saved my life. I will save his dream, his legacy. Can anyone blame me for choosing his name over mine? When he returns, or until he returns, as naive as that is, I will be Spider-Man. The city will have hope because this is what they need. They need to have a Spider-Man. Everything will just go to crap, right? He believes that he will return. He knows that he is literally just a custodian until he comes back. He has his mind in the right space. He doesn't even think about doing this for the long term. He's like, if it's the last thing I do, Spider-Man will be here to take care of New York. Yes, this might be a regression in terms of story plot line and doing kind of like a superior Spider-Man storyline, but the context and the situation is so much different and it's better written for my money. And from here we have Spider-Man in space, and a lot of people are like, what is Peter doing? Why is he eating rats or whatever he's doing here? And I'm like, yeah, he's regressing back to a spot that he never wanted to be in the first place. But then it's like, what conflict will we have if Peter can't be in this situation? I'm telling you, do you guys want Tom Taylor's Spider-Man, where it's all just jokes and giggles, happiness and fun, with a little bit of fighting here and there, and your favorite comic book characters teaming up with Spider-Man? That is going to get old very fast, let me tell you. And from here, he's like, there is nothing I can do but keep my head down. This is my life now. And people saw this panel and they lost it, but it shows his ingenuity, how smart he is, how willing he is to stay alive. And yeah, he is a little bit malnourished here, to say the very least. He is found by, let's just say, an alien. And from here, he goes on a training arc and he becomes Cosmic Spider-Man in space. And it's just so much fun to see Peter really down on that business, right? He's trying to get better and he's stronger than 99.9% of people in the human race. And he says, I'm just hoping for better. And this one panel right here might be one of my favorite Spider-Man panels of all time because it takes into context all of the horrible things that happened in Peter's life. And it shows us through this new lens of him really evaluating and thinking, maybe this is what I needed. Maybe getting beat the hell up and being told to get stronger by my enemy was what I needed to get me off my butt. So I was the person that I really needed to be. I was stagnant for too long. Maybe this is a way to get my groove back. And him just speaking his dialogue tells me that this is the Peter that I fell in love with. This was the guy that we all grew up with. He said, I spent the last few weeks running every conceivable test on myself to confirm two things: that I am not dreaming and that I am not dead, because this place is how I imagined heaven was when I was a kid. How many nights did I lie in my closet of a room in Queens and pray that I'd be abducted by aliens and be taken on an adventure? No, we're not doing that right now. It's just so good, bro. He sees the guy, what's his name, Hellgate, the guy who decked him, saying, get stronger, and he's pushing himself to his limits. He's Prime Deku before Prime Deku was even a thing, and now he's bringing it back. And through this struggle, he's actually feeling more like the Peter that you guys all wanted him to. He's like, I'm reluctant to let that confidence turn into hope. but it's nice to feel something other than despair and fear. Back home, on a night like this, I'd pull on the suit and go for a good long swing. Clear my head. Soon. Soon. But it goes down to the sublevel of his brother's ship, right? This guy that saved him and who he was bonding a friendship with. But then he sees that all of his experiments were not on plants, it was on actual species. And he's like, let them out, and he shouts and he blocks that punch. And it shows you that all of the morals that he literally lost in Zebwell's run, all of that is back. He's the Peter that we once knew. And the guy is like, what will you accomplish with all of this chaos on my ship? And he kicks him in the face. Dignity, I think. And then he runs away and he puts on his flexi suit. And this is going to be really interesting in the next couple of issues because I saw the solicitations and what this suit is really damn creative. I am so glad Joe Kelly, one of my favorite Superman and just overall Justice League and just writers in general, coming on to Spider-Man, it's been a gift in my opinion. He got his second clapback, his wind from being on that brand new day rotation. Back in the day after Mephisto came and stole his marriage, it's been nothing but doom and gloom from the things that he was able to write, but now he got it back and the alien's like, you like it? It's some of my best work. Takes some getting used to, especially for a primitive, and he shoots him down. But then a bunch of tendrils come in and take away the gun. And he's like, hey look, I figured out your fancy suit. Not bad for a primitive, and punches him, clocks him straight in the face. And he's like, impossible. And in the air, he says, science. And kicks this man to the ground. It's the most hype moments in Aura thing possible, while also having good writing. It shows you that yes, while we can take a couple steps back on a surface level, on the long term, you can see the spark of creativity that these writers have, the vision that they want to see forth for the rest of the year. And a lot of people are too quick to judge and to be on the writer's case. They have a plan, let them go through with it. A lot of people, after seeing solicitations and the previews of these books, are like, oh my goodness, they ruined Spider-Man, they ruined Batman. They would never say this, they would never do this. Norman Osborn would never become Spider-Man. Why? Why wouldn't he? Right? It's like you guys have a lot of these preconceived notions, and I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about the select few that are so opposed to change, but then they talk about comics never having change. And then when they finally pull it off, they act like, oh guys, I always loved this run, knowing full well that they bandwagon themselves onto the winning side. You see what I'm saying? This is what gets me so mad and heated. Wait at least an arc before you form an opinion and start spreading hate. People were spreading hate before the books even came out. And then, when the people who decided to read it actually saw, wait, this is actually good, and posted it on Reddit, on Twitter, on Instagram, then a lot of people are like, whoa, this is actually really good. Well, if you didn't have to see all of these people spreading hate, using their preconceived notions on what these characters should be beforehand, maybe you wouldn't have been influenced to be so against the book, because these days a lot of people can't form their opinions and just form it off of what everybody else thinks. And sadly, that is just the way that it is, especially when it comes to comics, because a lot of people get their information, all of their comic knowledge, through outside sources instead of reading it themselves. But yeah, guys, what do you think? Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, turn on post notifications so you know when a new video goes live, and make sure to leave your opinion down below. Keep it civil, keep it nice, keep it clean. That is all I ask. And yeah, see you all later. Take care. Deuces. Peace.